Assalamualaikum and hi to everyone. Thank you for watching this video. So in this video, we will discuss on how to use the exception handling in the Visual Basic Programming. Okay. In the Visual Basic Programming, we have the exception handling and it using the statement of try and catch. Why this exception handling is important when we create a program for all applications. It tries to guide the user with using the exception handling. We can guide our user to enter certain value for the input. So the statement in the Visual Basic Programming is try catch. So the try catch set of statement detect exceptions and take correction action. So this one is the general format for the exception handling or try catch statement in the Visual Basic Programming. So it's begin with the try. So the try block of code, this one execute a statement that may generate an exception. And then followed by the catch. At the catch part, it filter the possible exception. And then catch block of the code for handling the exception. And then you can add additional statement after the catch inside the catch block, and then end it with the end try statement. Okay, this one is example of the exception handling. We use the exception handling by divide by zero exception. Okay, let's say for this example, we have declared 3 parameters. Those parameters are in decimal, decimal numerator, decimal denominator, decimal divisions. So decimal numerator is equal to, you need to convert the value from the text box. For this example, we take the value from the text box, so you need to do conversion to the decimal because text box contain a string value of data. And then after you assign the data into the decimal value, okay, we put the try statement, try and catch statement. So try, okay, number 1, decimal division equal to decimal numerator divided by the decimal denominator. And then catch the exception. In this exception handling, we try to identify to ensure that the second number is not 0. So message box here is attempt to divide by 0. Okay, this part is division. So supposedly when you divide one number to another number, the second number must not a 0 number. And then ended with the end try, and end sub is referred to the your procedure, sub procedure. So this is an example on how we can use the exception handling in the Visual Basic Programming. Okay, this table show several exception type. So we can look at the first row. We have the exception type argument null exception. So this exception type is used in the condition when the exception occurs. A variable that has no value is passed to a procedure. So we can catch variable that there's no value on that variable. So example here, how we do use this exception type, argument null exception. Okay, we declare a variable as a string. So first, display items at a string term. So this one, we want to add item into the list box, for example. So we can use this null exception in order to cache the value without any value. Sorry, to cache the variable without any value. Okay, the second exception type, we have divide by 0 exception. this is based on the previous example. A value is divided by 0. That is the condition that we want to catch. So integer result equal to integer num divided by 0. The next exception type is format exception. So a variable is converted to another type that is not possible. Okay, for example, we have string of code and we want to try convert the string into the integer, but the code is not the integer, so that is not possible. So we can use the format exception handling for this cache section. Okay, the next one we have null reference exception. This one, a procedure is called when the result is not possible. Okay, example, let's say you have a string of terms, and then we have integer value, string term dot length. So that's not a possible for assigning the string term dot length into the integer value. So we can use null reference exception. Okay, the next exception type we have overflow exception. A value exceeds its assigned data type. So let's say we have integer cost as integer, and then we try to do power of something, 58 power of 4 million. So that are not acceptable because of the range of the data itself under the data type of integer. So we can use overflow exception. Okay, the next one is system exception. This one for the generic condition. So it will catch all the other exception that being mentioned above. This one is system exception. You can catch any generic value or generate more on general things. Okay, next one, example on how we use the exception for overflow exception. Okay, let's say here we have a variable integer, and then we try to do integer base value power of 2. So integer base value is 5 million. We have 70 here. So this, when we do power of 2 or square, is a square root. Power of 2 means the result will be out of range. It might out of range. So we can try to use cache exception overflow in order to capture or in order to handle this kind of error. And this is also another example of the exception handling. So the next part, we will see demonstration on how we can do the exception handling. So in this section, we try to do demonstration on how we can use the try and catch statement when we do the coding part. Okay, for this example, I create one application. We have two text box, text box 1, text box 2, and text box 3, and we have one button, calculate. So when we click on this button, it will do something. Okay, for this example, based on example of division, the exception handling that we use is divide by 0 exception. So first, I declare 3 variable in data type decimal. So data type decimal, it will get the data from the 2 text box here. So data from the text box is a string value. So you need to do the conversion. So we convert to the decimal because we declare as the decimal. If you declare as the integer, so you need to convert into the integer data type. And then after you do conversion here, you try to do the division process. So at this part, we put the division under the try block. That means you try to do or you try to perform these arithmetic operations, and then the result will be passed into the text box 3. So the text box 3 is here. So first, when we execute this code, it will go line by line. So it will try and then identify this value and then try to cache the exception, divide by 0. If the second number is 0, so it will display attempt to divide by 0. Otherwise, it will put the result into the text box 3. Then ended with the end try, and then after that, it will show you a message box. Enjoy calculating and clear the text box. Okay, now we try to run this application. So click on the start button. Okay, you will have this interface. So enter number 6, for example, and here you enter number 5. So when you click on the calculation, it will give you answer 1.2, and then escape this part. Just go out of the try and cache statement, enjoy calculating, and then after you click on OK, it will clear the text box number 3. Okay, now let's try when we enter 0 value and we click on the calculate button, so it will go to the cache the exception because we put divide by 0 exception. So it identified the second number is 0, or we divide by 0, so it will cache this message box. So this message box will be display attempt to divide by 0, and then when you click OK, it will go outside the end try statement, jump to the message box, enjoy calculating, and when you click OK, there is nothing at the answer box. So that's all on how we can use the exception handling in the Visual Basic Programming. So thank you and Assalamualaikum.